It is indeed a real honor to get to be here in your presence on this sacred day, in this sacred year, with all of you. First and foremost, I would like to ask your permission to speak. Is it okay if I continue? I also would like to ask you if it's okay that we thank the people of this land, the Ohlone people, the indigenous people, and many of the nations whose land we are currently inhabiting. In their honor, and with your permission, I'd like to burn a little sage just to say thank you. Thank you to our ancestors. Thank you to our community. And thank all of you for being here this morning. Second of all, I'd like to give thanks to this amazing man, Reverend Harry Williams. Can we please give him some love? It was Reverend Harry Williams who dreamed of this particular idea, of this particular gathering, in this particular time, and in this particular place. I'm also very thankful to OCC, to Oakland City Church, for welcoming us, for opening their arms to our home. Can we give them some thanks? It is inspiring and hope-giving to see all of you here. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my wife, our 3 little ones, our friends, our loved ones, our community, for being here. There are also other elected officials here. Folks that are from the town, that have been in the town a long time, like Councilmember Desley Brooks. Thank you for coming, Councilmember. My prayer is that what will be remembered is not anything that I say, but the wisdom of the Great Spirit. And possibly some examples from our elders who remind us that we are not alone. This is not our first struggle. This is not our first hardship. We have overcome much more, and remember, this too shall pass. There is no way that I can do justice to the words, visions, and prophetic wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I do hope that Dr. King won't mind if I also channel other spiritual elders that came before him, such as Harriet Tubman, Mahatma Gandhi, and a few others. In this year, 2017, 4 days before inauguration, I am turning to all of you, knowing that many in our community carry real fears as to what this presidency may or may not bring. It is here that I turn to one of our elders, the great activist poet, Audre Lorde, who reminds us that when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. Can we give her an amen? I know that you come from a people who have dared to be powerful, even when they face great odds. I know that you come from a people of great vision. See, ancestors dreamed of what is now known as a Native American prophecy that states that out of this crisis, a 7th generation will be born to restore balance to the earth. And you, my sisters and brothers, are that 7th generation. You are a dream manifest, and I salute you. So it is with that in mind that I am so deeply honored to be in front of you. The 7th generation, those people our ancestors dreamed of, are you. And I come to you this morning with a love letter from them. If this doesn't appear to be objective, neutral, or colorblind, well, that's intentional. Historian Howard Zinn stated that the way U.S. history is taught in schools means you can't be neutral on a moving train. So there's no time for us to be neutral with the truth right now. Can I get an amen? Now might be another critical moment in time when we are called to stand as teachers of people, of neighbors, friends, and community, whether we're certified or not, age 5 or 95, as you have always stood. We are not saviors, but we can be truth tellers. That same poet, Audre Lorde, also said that our silence will not protect us, and that poetry is indeed not a luxury. For you see, that poetry is our voices and our truth. And this morning, I'm honored to get to share some of the prophetic words our ancestors fought for with our life. Shall we get started? As we hear, we may be called to speak, and even to speak out. This morning, I make no apologies in honoring a new generation of teachers like Brittany Packnett from the Black Lives Matter movement, who reminds us that if you sugarcoat the truth, it loses its nutritional value. So I aim to catch no flies with this honey. I know you know that a man was elected U.S. president openly calling for the caging and deportation of millions of Mexicans in the land where 2 grandmothers ago those Mexicans called home. My own mother, Marta Areli Borja, has been deported on 3 different occasions. Imagine me as a child ripped apart from my mom in our own ancestral homeland. Names like California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Nuevo Mexico, and Oregon, they don't just come out of nowhere. The names sound a certain way because they are where these so-called immigrants come from. If we count years by the number of grandmothers in just one family tree, it was 2 grandmothers ago that the entire U.S. Southwest was called Mexico. Then the U.S. government signed into law the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, but Article 10 of that treaty granted Mexicans full citizenship in the United States and respect for their land here in this country. Now Mexican citizens in their own ancestral land find themselves on the margins, attempting to convince this government to grant them at least a driver's license to get to work. What happened that Mexicans went from U.S. citizens to second class, to unwelcome residents, to undocumented, to illegal, to wetbacks in the span of less than 2 grandmothers ago? Much of the architecture and wealth of the United States is owed to the Mexican citizens of the U.S. The billion-dollar agricultural business and the billion-dollar service industry exist on the backs of Mexicans. Did you know that Mexicans and Latinos fought for this country in every single war? 10,000 Latinos fought in the Civil War. 400,000 served in the U.S. military during World War II and received the most congressional medals of honor. So why are Mexicans seen as foreigners in their own land? When thinking about desegregation in U.S. schools, we cite Brown versus Board of Education, but do we acknowledge the Latino families that desegregated schools in 1947 in the now historic Mendez versus Westminster case here in California? We can even go back further to the 1930s when Mexican Americans were being deported in record numbers, blamed for the Great Depression, and yet it was the Mexican American community in Lemon Grove and San Diego that desegregated schools. We have desegregated schools also because of Mexican people. But this is not just Mexican land, and this is not just a Mexican story. This is indigenous people's land, including the Mexica and other nations with ties to Anahuac, to Turtle Island, to the U.S. Those people are not ancient history. Those people are alive and well. They are at Standing Rock, protecting what is sacred. See, we didn't cross the border, but the border crossed and now it's trying to double cross us. This spewed hate today co-signs middle school kids who proudly chant, "Build that wall, build that wall, build that wall." And then they have the audacity to sit next to their Latino classmates who must constantly watch their back in school. Some of these Latino kids carry the real fear of going home later on, wondering if their parents have been picked up. And have they been put into modern day concentration camps known as detention centers? You see, this hatred towards Mexican is the national rhetoric that permeates our air before we build the new Manzanars. But the attacks are everywhere. See, this voice box president-elect treats Muslims as scapegoats, making it okay to strip a young woman's hijab, laugh at her, and blame a people's faith for a complicated history that has deep roots of terrorism, many of it created here in America. This leader openly opposes workers uniting and standing up for basic rights, but will give trillions of dollars as corporate welfare and tax breaks to the rich, and that's who he's lining up for his cabinet. We've been led to believe that the enemy wears a hijab, but this enemy dwells in gold-plated towers, where all that glitters is definitely not gold. This president depicts women as pieces of bleeding meat who should be punished for having the nerve to make personal choices with their own body. Imagine that in 2017. However, the enemy is not just the president-elect. See, part of the soil is very much ready for him to be president in this country. So my question to you is, what soil will you help to plow? This hate did not just come out of thin air. History books still teach us that Lincoln and not Harriet Tubman freed the slaves, and that Columbus discovered America, a place where people, the Iroquois Confederacy, and not the Greeks, had already built democracy. So-called news networks peddle fear, and many who don't have you as their teacher or their neighbor have bought it. Educator James Lowen, he has a name for this. It's the lies my teacher told me. But teachers are not mass producing their own textbooks. Billionaire manufacturing companies are doing that. However, we can counter the myth-making in those pages. We can counter that with the truth. In you, my people, exists the power of truth. If we must return to a so-called white past, let's go to Walt Whitman. See, it appears that some of today's white people also need positive heroes. They don't need the KKK. They need to understand how Margaret Mead organized. They need to know how Howard Zinn stood up and reclaimed the people's history in the United States, and how the field of ethnic studies affirms all our people's histories. Teaching through a dated white U.S. lens even robs white people of their very own genuine freedom fighters. The Irish are not drunkards or leprechauns. That's straight mythology. Walt Whitman clearly reminds us what we must do. He said, and I quote, to the states, resist much, obey little. See, once you're fully enslaved, no nation, state city of this earth ever afterward resumes its liberty. I agree in part with what he says. Resist much, my people, and obey little. But enslaved people can and will regain their liberty, and it must start with removing the chains of mental slavery, and for that, your role is crucial. You are the ones who can reach. You are the ones who can change the world. It was Margaret Mead who reminds us to never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. But some might ask, where are our leaders? Marion Wright Edelman of the Children's Defense Fund would say to us, a lot of people are waiting for MLK or Gandhi to come back, but they're gone. We are it. It is up to us. It is up to you. Stop looking for a prophetic leader. The prophetic leader is inside of you. And even Gandhi would remind us that if I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. So the question is, what will it take for you to believe in yourselves, in ourselves, in Oakland, in this church, in this movement, in the fact that indeed change is possible? If the thought creeps in that we can't, remember that Bob Marley reminded us, have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. Will we be consumed merely by fear? Or will we believe in a false history that tries to tell us that nothing will ever change, so why bother? My people, what will we remember and highlight from this period in our lives? Will we remember the Navajo, the Lakota, the Sioux Standing Rock Nation? Will we remember images of the National Guard sicking dogs at the people, but how water protectors remained firm even when they were being tear gassed? What will we pass on from that victory? Will we teach the future that the people of Standing Rock were stronger than the National Guard's tanks? And that when they brought their guns, it was the faith of the protectors that brought forth an unlikely ally in Tatanka Oyate, in the Buffalo Nation. Well, we need to show the future proof so that they can see with their own eyes that an entire herd of buffalo literally came to stand with the people and protect the water in North Dakota. Those are the times we're in. Will we teach the future how thousands of veterans of U.S. wars journey to Standing Rock and apologize to the indigenous people for war crimes committed against them, something that the U.S. government has still failed to do? Will we remember that at Standing Rock, love indeed trumped hate? For you see, we are living in amazing times when buffalo show up to stand with the people. Will we speak about small towns who had a huge impact like Ferguson, who put Black Lives Matter on the nation's conscience? And they showed us that street activism, organizing, and social savvy media campaigns can indeed create a modern movement and the political force to be reckoned with. We are living in those times too. Will we be students of history and teach others about 4'9", half-paralyzed Harriet Tubman, who faced greater odds than we do today? And did she not find a way out of no way? Will we? See, Harriet stood up with shotgun and faith, following stars and the people's movement called the Underground Railroad, where black lives had to matter so they could fight for and win their own freedom, one abolitionist at a time, regardless of who was the U.S. president or what odds were stacked against us. You come from that legacy. You come from those freedom fighters. My people, it is time to stand. Yeah, we're 4 days away and we get weary. But to my left is Harriet Tubman. And to my right is Malcolm X. And in front of me is Dr. King. I have a feeling we're going to be all right. Harriet Tubman said the following: there was one of two things I had the right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would take the other. For no man should take me alive. I should fight for liberty as long as my strength lasted. My people, will you fight for liberty? Will you stand up for what is right? And will you fight for the liberty of your sisters and brothers who may be arrested, deported, or even gunned down? My people, we are calling on you. This moment in time is asking of you simply to make history. What are you being called to do? See, many people only quote part of what Frederick Douglass said. They remember that without struggle, there is no progress. But he also said that those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing the ground. Might we deprecate agitation? Might we let fear stop our destiny? Some worry, and for good reason, because the president-elect and his supporters are trying to bury us. But they may not know that we are seeds. We are seeds. My relatives, please, it is time to plow. Time to plant seeds, water them, provide sun, nurture, and for each one of you to blossom into the beautiful roses that you are called to be. You were born to bloom no matter what, but you are not alone in this garden called America. Yes, it's raining hard, but have you not faced other storms? And what storm have you not weathered? My people, may I humbly ask that we commit ourselves to tending entire gardens, starting with the ones at home. If we are not sure where to begin, we may need to remove some weeds of self-doubt, or even of doubt that a new world is even possible. When those weeds sprout up, it's time to prune. And our time to add the fertile soil of a real hope born inside a jail cell where Madiba sat. Our elder Nelson Mandela, who for close to 3 decades tended his garden every day, fighting against apartheid, building so that one day it would end and that his people would be free. I say to you, to all of you, all of my respect for answering the most sacred of calls, to plant those seeds, to speak truth to flower. And in so doing, Dr. King would say that our task is a very simple one. We are here to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. As you move forward, Dr. King would also ask us to not allow anybody to pull you so low that you now hate them. Yes, your anger may be righteous, but it was that freedom-loving elder, Nelson Mandela, who said to us all, as I walked out of the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. My people, be free. May you be guided by love and truth and not by fear or anger. Be inspired by the victories of Gandhi taking on the British Empire, Harriet Tubman leading a people towards freedom, César Chavez standing up so that farm workers could have a legitimate union and rights, Dr. King and so many others doing whatever was necessary to achieve civil rights. Because no amount of arrest, beatings could stop a people that will not be moved. As I end my time with you, I know you are cut from that cloth. You come from kings and queens. You are destined for greatness. It is indeed an honor to get to stand next to you. Get to know your neighbors. Continue to organize. Study the elders that have shown us the way. See the present for the victories that are in front of us at Standing Rock, Black Lives Matter, the Dreamers Movement, and beyond. And please know that you are the ones we've been waiting for. With that I say, Meshikatiawi, Ashe, and Amen. God bless you.